Hello and welcome to this new video where today we're gonna do my VCT Champions 2025 Team Power Rankings. Now I posted my pick'ems recently, and let's just say the power rankings will not fully reflect what I did in my pick'ems, as you'll probably see. But pretty much what this power ranking is gonna be, it's gonna be a bit of everything. It's gonna be a bit of current form, but I'm also sort of gonna base it off of what teams I think can win champs more than what teams I think will look the best. Now, I still factor in some current form and some just yearly form as well. But generally, the yearly form, though, is more part of like what teams could win it, because I think the teams that have played well over the year is generally the teams that are most likely to win. But yeah, let's go through it. Let's start from the back with number 16, which is MIBR. Now, MIBR, I mean, I don't think it's a hot take to say they're the worst team. I mean, you could argue a China team, and I would say you could argue probably one of the APAC teams as well. But, like, all I have to say is I don't think America is that good of a region. And sure, MIBR did look okay in their final game, but they also didn't even make playoffs. So, like, and then also, on top of that, the international events they made, or the international event, they made, they went out as the worst team of any international event ever. So I just think MIBR are not going to be that great. And therefore, I have them last. Now, in 15th, I have DRX. Now, here is where you get a bit of like, okay, I do think DRX probably have a higher chance of winning, although it's not very high than some of the teams above them. But I just think, just looking at current form and how they're just in general playing right now, it's not looking that great, to be completely honest. And that's why I have them down at 15th here. I think they're genuinely one of the worst teams right now. So yeah, that's why I have them at 15. Now, going into number 14, we actually have our first China team. And this is probably going to be a bit controversial, but I'm going to have China's second seed in DRG. Now, why do I have DRG at 14? Well, this one is big on the train of what I think they can do. Because I do think DRG is an upset team. And that's about where it ends. I think overall, as you're going to see with the team right above them, Shilai Gaming, which I forgot to change the logo of. Wait, let me do that real quick. All right, there we go. Now we're back. But yeah, XLG. There we go. We got the right logo now. But yeah, XLG and DRG. The reason I have XLG above them, although they're the 4th seed, right, is because although DRG beat them, it was still a very close game. And overall, I still think XLG can beat DRG. And on top of that, I just think XLG have been the more solid team this year. Like, over the course of the year, like, DRG has never been the best team in the region. XLG has. And I think that's the big thing for me. I think the peak of XLG, when XLG looks at their best, they are a better team than DRG. But DRG is definitely a team that can deal some damage, while I do think XLG is more of that team that's like, okay, you will either look absolutely horrendous and just completely bomb out of the tournament, or you could, like, really do something. DRG are a bit of the same, just that I think that DRG couldn't look really good like I think XLG could. And that's why I have XLG above DRG, because I think they can go further than what DRG can, as I only think DRG really has, like, upset potential, like, similar to, like, Billy in 2023 at Champs. That's sort of where I see DRG. While XLG, I see as a team that, while they could just bomb out, I also could see them just, like, going pretty far. Now at 12, I have Giants, EMEA 2nd seed. Now this one is a bit similar to the DRG one, where I do think EMEA has, similar to China has had some teams that have fallen victim to exhaustion. Um, and I think that's the main reason why Giants came second. But also because I actually do think Giants is a good team, don't get me wrong. It's just the other teams, a lot of them also looked really shaky. Now, I still think Giants are really good. Like, I genuinely believe this team is good. I just can't put them much higher than this, as I do feel like the teams above them are generally better, although, and have a higher chance of winning. Although I still think Giants definitely could deal some damage and be pretty good. I just don't see them going super far, as I think, like, the mechanical aspect of their game is by far not the best. I just think overall, like, as a team, they play really well together. But I think to beat the best of the best, you kind of need a bit of both. And although they do have great mechanics, I don't think currently, at least, of what I've seen enough of them mechanically to where I can put them as a team that can win champs. Now, EDG, on the other hand, I mean, yeah, that's pretty much why I put EDG above Giants, as you can probably guess. They literally won champs last year. Um, and that's one of the big reasons why I have them at 11. They haven't looked that great, but I think overall, like, you just can't count EDG out right now, because although they're China's third seed and they haven't looked as good, that's what we said last year as well. And sure, they were China's first seed last year, but also we still also said that EDG didn't look that great, and that they would probably not do that great at champs. And look what happened. They won. So I just simply can't count them out. They're still going to be pretty low on the list because I could just see them doing nothing, coming up there and just not doing much. But the step up that EDG usually has at international events is just absolutely ludicrous. So I just can't put them lower than 11. Like, even we look at something like Bangkok earlier this year. I mean, sure, they weren't like, they didn't win it, but they were like one of the best teams that event after a kickoff where they didn't look that amazing. And it's just like those sort of things where it's like EDG has just been on the international stage so much, and they just step up to every single time they're there. Or at the beginning they didn't, but because of how many frequently they've been there, they're just so used to the international stage that they're so good when they're playing there. Now, going into number 10, we have T1. Now, obviously, T1, the reason I have them ahead of EDG mostly is because I do think I still trust them more. Just simply because they've won an event. Not only have they won an event this year, but also I do think overall, Pacific has looked like the more difficult region overall this year than China has. And I think they have probably struggled in pretty somewhat similar ways, EDG and T1, since that first event. And that's why I put T1 above, because T1 has won more recently and are playing in the better region. Now, going into 9, we have Team Heretics. Now, Team Heretics obviously won EWC. Now, some people don't put that highly, which I think is fair. But also, I do think T1 overall just haven't had as good of a form as Team Heretics have had at times. And I think overall, what we've seen from Team Heretics is just too good to ignore. And I think T1's lows are way lower than what Team Heretics' are. Although both teams have extremely low lows, to be fair. But I also do think Team Heretics, when, like, okay, the peak of T1 does not beat the peak of Team Heretics, just in my personal opinion. Now, are we going to get the peak of both of these teams? Probably not. Could we get one of them? Yeah, definitely. And could they then win the event? Maybe, yeah. Now, coming into number 8, we have Energy, and this one might be a bit controversial for some people. Um, as Energy obviously has looked great lately, but in my opinion, although they have, I just think overall I can't put them higher than this, as they are pretty recently started to look this good. And it's not like it's been super convincingly the best team. Like, they beat Sen once, but also they've sort of lost to Sen before. Then it was sort of in a grand final that didn't really matter for Sentinels, so you don't really know how much that really shows. And then in general, like, I just think Energy, then obviously the grand final against G2 just did not look particularly great at all whatsoever. I just think this NRG team, they are good, but they're just not that top quality that I think I see in a lot of the teams above them. Now going into number 7, we have RRQ, which is not China's number 3 team. I don't bother changing this one now. But either way, they're Pacific's number 3 seed. Or number 4. Probably number 4. Either way, RRQ, they're number 7. Pretty much the reasoning why they're number 7. They have been good for most of the year. And have now got some international experience. And just overall looks really good and rejuvenated after what happened in the last international. They just looked like they were struggling in the new meta. But now, finally, they have found their stride in this meta. And there's no change of meta. So they should be able to do really good this event. And I genuinely believe so. Now at 6, we have the final CN team, which is Billy Gaming. And let's just say they're pretty good. They're pretty good this year. I mean, 6th might seem a bit low considering a China team won last year, but I just overall think that China is still the weakest region. So although I do think Billy is a really good team, I don't see them as one of the favorites to win champs, for example. So that's why I have them at 6. Now going into our top 5, we have Sentinels. So now this is the main reason why I think my NRG positioning was a bit controversial, because I feel like after that loss to NRG, a lot of people are down on Sentinels. Now personally, I disagree quite heavily with that. And I do think overall Sentinels is a better team than NRG. And that's really the reason why they're here, top 5. Now, if you watch my pick'ems video, I have them going out in groups. The only reason I have that is maybe a bit to rile up some Sen fans, but also I do think their lower level is very low, and I think their peak, while it is really good, we've not really seen it consistently enough to where I can feel confident putting them higher than 5th. So that's sort of where I'm at with Sen, and that's why they're number 5. Now, at 4, we have Fnatic. Now, Fnatic is EMEA's 3rd seed, and in my opinion, is probably the most underrated team going into this event. Now, if you've listened to literally, like, the thing with Fnatic, right, is, sure, they didn't do great in this playoffs. But you gotta remember, they played Stage 1, EWC, and Toronto back to back to back, super shortly after each other, and went deep in every single one of the tournaments, meaning they barely had any breaks. And Fnatic finally got their break. And not only did they finally get their break, they actually, like, the things that they showed, you saw that they were more practicing than actually playing, because obviously they were guaranteed to make it, which meant I don't really see this playoffs as Fnatic showing how good they're going to look at champs. I see this playoffs almost like them almost looking for their mistakes, and I think losing actually is a positive in general for this Fnatic team, because I think it's going to make Fnatic a lot better here at champs, and that's why I have them at 4. Now, still, obviously, I will need to have some doubts, but I just think people are severely underestimating Fnatic because, like, they have, like, even when they literally played with a player that they had only played with for that stage last year, they still were one of the best teams at Champs. And then the year before that, they came fourth and only lost to Loud. So Fnatic are good at Champs. Now, do I think they can win? Yes, and I think, but I don't think they're one of the favorites, which I would say is the top three are probably the favorites. But yeah, I don't think Fnatic is in that group. Now, for the top three, these are the favorites in my opinion. We have Team Liquid to start off. Now, Team Liquid to me, I still have slightly higher than Fnatic because I think over the course of the year, they've still been consistently one of the best teams in the world compared to Fnatic. And not only have they been that, I also think the changes they've made to their roster have just made the team one step better at a time. And now, I mean, their roster is just... I mean, I do think for next year, I could see them making like one roster move to just make this team out of this world. But overall, like, Trex, Nats, Kiko, like, Patty, like, this team is just stacked with just quality and experience. And that's why I have them at number 3. Now, the only reason really why they're not higher than 3 is because I do think we've seen some shakiness overall from Team Liquid. But I think if they get it together and can keep it together, like, this team should no doubt be one of the best teams at this tournament. Going into number 2, this is another controversial one. We have Paper X. Now, I know Paper X won the last event, but also, we gotta look at it like this, in my opinion. They are in a region which is really good, yes, and they looked pretty dominant, but also, I do think the teams that they played, they got somewhat lucky, maybe you could argue in their playoffs run, but even then, I don't think you can argue that. I just think these two top teams are really close. And the real reason I have one over the other is because some consistency, and also I think one team's peak is better than the other. As I do think Paper X, although they have an extremely high peak, I think overall, this other team just mechanically, I would say they're on a similar level, if not even maybe Paper X is slightly higher. But it's like, at this level, it makes such little difference that just with how absolutely ludicrously good this number 1 team can be when it comes to strategy, macro, micro, everything like that, I think they honestly, at their peak, if both teams are at their peak form, Paper X honestly probably gets pretty demolished, in my opinion. And if you don't know which number 1 team that is, it is G2. That's kind of funny. I'm pretty sure G2 has been my number 1 team going into every single international this year, and still they haven't won one. But I just think overall, like, they should have won Bangkok. At this last international, I think the games that they did lose were pretty valid, and I think overall as well, just looking at the way they lost, I think they overall felt pretty unhappy with how it turned out and just how it went. And I think looking at the games they lost, they didn't really look like themselves. Now, what have happened since? Well, they pretty much have not lost a game since week 1, which was against Sentinels in their first game with a sub that's literally a caster in Baby Bay. Now Leaf is back as well. And although I would argue that Leaf actually didn't look as good as we've seen him in the past, with these couple of weeks to get back in form, he also did already get some games, and he still looked really solid in those games and looked pretty much back in form. Like, if Leaf can get that final step forward that he had prior and look like arguably the best player in the world, this team is just straight up like, I don't think there's any team that can stop them, to be completely honest. And but yeah, that's the only issue to me. They need to look their best, which they have had a tendency to crumble a bit at internationals. They have this year. But if G2 get to their peak form, they are beating everybody at this event. I don't care what you say. But yeah, thank you for watching. That was this video. I hope you liked it, and if you did, please like, subscribe. Yeah, that was it. That was my power rankings. But yeah, hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.